Now, on this other piece, right before we adjourned the House, shortly before we adjourned the House, we had a week where the House was able to pass through quite a few very important immigration bills. Now we have H.R. 6, the Dream and Promise Act, which was passed, and the Farm Worker Workforce Modernization Act, which was passed. Now I wanted to pause here for a little bit for a moment rather, because we engaged our community a lot in this process, and we engaged a lot of our community organizations that really do a lot of immigrant advocacy work here at home, from Adhikar and Drum and Make the Road, etc. A lot of our immigration partners have, weighed in this process, and I want to be just honest about how I feel. The Dream and Promise Act, as we know, we've been trying to pass this legislation for a really long time, and it is in so many ways a momentous moment for the House to pass the Dream and Promise Act. And what's wonderful about, the upside, what's wonderful about this legislation is that it not only includes Dreamers, but includes a lot of TPS recipients, which, for those who don't know, is temporary protected status. So people that were fleeing emergencies like the earthquake in Haiti, and other sorts of emergencies around the world. Our Nepali community and a lot of other communities have very large amounts of TPS recipients who were pretty much kind of on this chopping block for becoming undocumented, not really through any fault of their own, but because we were allowing their status to expire with no real path towards citizenship. And so, to have this opportunity for citizenship for so many millions of people and so many people in our community was really momentous in the passage of this. However, I really wrestled with this because there were a lot of folks, even within our own party, that sought to add criminal bars to not only the Dream and Promise Act, but to a lot of immigration proposals put forward by the party. And so what does that mean? What criminal bars means is that they were kind of lowering the standards that would allow a person to be denied citizenship. And so if you have certain past convictions, and a lot of them are not, some of them, it creates an opportunity where we aren't even talking about a conviction that is extremely serious or of the highest order that, some folks would really raise potentially concerns about. But we're also talking about windows and legislated lowered criminal bars that really create a situation where if someone, if you came here when you were 3 years old and you were, caught shoplifting or something like that, which is something that, kids and people these things happen. And, but I don't believe that they merit something as severe as deportation. And so one of the things that I really expressed a lot of concern about was the addition of these criminal bars that I don't believe were necessary given the criminal bars that already existed in the law. So I do have a lot of concern about that. And I think that, as we know, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but we can do so much better at this. And we can also really draft a policy that can work for as many people as possible. Secondly, we have the Farm Workforce Modernization Act. This as well were reforms to the H-2A visa program that provides a pathway to permanent legal status for agricultural workers and their families. So if you can move on. Now, the next topic